Hi, Kathy, and possibly anyone else who might be interested in this topic. What the topic is actually is how we save and export designs out of our Hatch 2 version of our software program. So, for people who have had some difficulty understanding this process, I'm first of all going to just start off by saying that what I have on my screen right here is an EMB object format. It's a design that came out of the software program. You're going to know that it's an object format because if you look over at your sequence bar on the right-hand side of my screen, you're going to see that we've got some closed objects, we've got some line fills here, and you can see here that when this has been expanded a little bit, I can compress it or I can expand it to see the object type. You're going to see that all of them are actual objects. So this is an object file. If I were to make any changes to this file that I wanted to save, um, then I could do a couple of different things. What I'm going to do right now is I'm actually just going to choose these little dragonflies and I'm going to change the color of them. So let's just say for right now that I'm going to change all the dragonflies to red. Maybe some of them I'll change into yellow or something like that. Anyway, I'm just making some minor changes to this design, as you can see. And what I'm going to do then with it is I'm going to save this modified design. I can do one of two things. If I wanted to save this modified EMB design as another EMB design, the tool I would use over in my output toolbox is the Save Design As. All right, saving the design is going to save it as an EMB format. When I opened this function up, the last place that I saved a design into was this particular project, quilt project for this wall hanging. And just for the sake of time in this video, I'm going to just go ahead and save my altered designs here. So this is the design. It is the sunset design. That was the original name of it. And it is an EMB file format. If I want to save this design, but with a different name, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a slightly different name. The original one was called Sunset. I'm now going to call this one To Sunset, just like that. And when I do this, I always like to put the version number. In this case, this is version number 2. I like to put that version number at the beginning of my name because to me it just makes more sense because when they come up in the list, they're going to come up in alphanumeric order. And so number 2 would come in, you know, before number 3 or 4 or however many versions of this project I might want to make. So now I've got it saved as an EMB. That's the original design format with some color changes made to it. And let's just say, for example, that there were other changes that I had wanted to make, like maybe some of these satin fills, maybe I wanted to make them into weaves or something different. I would want to save these as, I'm just going to change that fill into a weave fill. All right, just to make some changes here. So I would always save these EMB file changes as EMBs. The next thing that I would do is if I wanted to sew this out right away, then what I could do is I could export this design, again, using the Output Design toolbox, come down to exporting, because what exporting means is we are sending this object file out into a stitch file. Not only are we sending it into a stitch file, we are also exporting it into a specific place at the same time. All right, so again, the last place that I was saving designs into was my folder right here for this May basket wall hanging. This is design number 2. And so this time, just notice that I am sending it out as a GEF format for my Janome sewing machine. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save it. It's now saved on the hard drive of my computer. But if I was going to send this to my sewing machine in order to stitch it out right away, I would want to use the transfer button here. This is be one of the options of getting it onto my USB drive. So what you want to do in this case is come up to your machine setting up here, or use the transfer design setting right here and right click if you're going to do it on this one. But let's just show you here with the machine setting. select machine, and then select transfer settings. All right, from here, just make sure that the machine that you are writing this design for is selected here under your machine style. You know, if you click on this, you're going to get all these different machines from different brands of different machines that this program will work with. Choose your file type. Again, you're going to want to have a couple of different choices for the Janome machine. Depending on your machine, you might want a JEF file or a JPX file. If it's a really old Janome machine, you might choose the SO format. But right now, I'm just going to leave it as the JEF. And then the location. This is what you need to pay attention to. Right here, the location that has been set up. The last time that I set my transfer settings or made any changes was my F, which is my USB drive that's currently in my computer, in the EMB folder and an EMBF folder. But if I didn't want this design to go into those folders, that EMB subfolder of EMBF, I could check the browsing button and I could change that designation. What I'm doing here is I'm coming to my EMB folder because that's what my sewing machine wants to find the designs. And I like to be very organized about my projects. And so what you're looking at here is a view of all of the different folders that I currently have on that USB stick. So I could just choose one of them. And I'm just going to say, for example, I'm going to choose the bird folder, even, you know, because or I could make a new folder if I wanted to. And then I would say, okay, and then I could cancel. Or if I don't want to actually make any changes, I'm going to cancel this. So I'm not making any changes right now. And, but if I wanted to send this over into the USB folder at this point that I changed all those transfer settings, I would just then say it transfer. I'm going to get a message that says that that design has been saved. It's design number 2, Sunset, JA. It has been sent to that folder. And then I would just acknowledge that it's there. All right, so that's how I get this design out of here over there. So let's just say, for example, that now what you want to do is you want to save this as a JEF file with some significant changes in it. Again, what I'm going to do is probably, I'm going to select all of these objects and I'm just going to change all of them into a tatami fill, just very briefly and quickly so that I've got some actual changes here. I'm going to get rid of all of these dragonflies. So I'm going to make quite a bit of a different design right now. You know, just altering it. All right, I've gotten rid of dragonflies. I've changed my satin fills into weave fills. I'm going to Control A to select all, and under Create Layouts, I'm going to center this to the work area. And I do have my square 14 hoop selected. All right, so here I've got a new design. I may probably not want to save this as an EMB, and then maybe again I would want to. But let's just say that one of the questions that has come up is how do I save a JEF file with a different name? Simple as can be. Follow the same logic. You're going to your toolbox for output design. You're going to export this design. It's opening up that same folder that we were at a while ago in my computer. This time, this is no longer number 2 Sunset. This is now number 3 Sunset. So I'm just going to change that name to the 3rd Sunset. It is a JEF file that I'm exporting this into, and I'm going to say save. And now I can save this one and use this one as a stitch file to be used on my embroidery machine if I want to. All right, so that's how you save a JEF file with a different JEF name. You're exporting it and you're just typing in that different name. All right. The other thing about this is that if I had made some significant changes and then once I did my stitch out and I did not like those changes, I would probably, you know, want to discard that file that I didn't like, just so that I don't end up with lots and lots of files, you know, in my computer that are basically the same design. If it's a design that either came as an EMB or that you had digitized as an EMB, typically what I will do with my designs, I'm going to go into a different folder here of a project that I had worked on actually for a challenge in Maggie's group. Let's just view these a little bit bigger. So this was that Paisley challenge. And you're going to see here that I've got a couple of different reiterations of my designs. Right down here, I've got a flower applique that was an EMB, and then I changed it and added some leaves into it, and I saved that one also. You're going to see my paisley design here. I had a number 3 paisley, so this was obviously the third version of this design that I had made. And then I have a Jeff version of it where I actually stitched it out. And then I have a number 4 paisley. So some of the differences in this, there's some differences between this one from this one. I did save both of these EMB formats, and I did not save, obviously I didn't, at least not in this folder, um, a Jeff format of this particular design. So sometimes, you know, what I end up doing after I have finished a project is I will just come back in and I may delete even maybe all of these Jeff files because I don't necessarily need to keep them if I have the original object file that I created, because I can always play with these designs, you know, and make some changes in them as needed. So anyway, sometimes I get rid of Jeff designs after I have digitized an design. So I hope that that makes sense. Sometimes I will keep the Jeff files and other times I won't keep them. Just kind of depends on my project. But however, if it is ever a question of, let's just say I'm going to find a folder over here where, I don't know, let me just find one that I know that I've got some designs that I've worked at before. This Antique Daisies. This was a design collection that I had bought years ago, and I oftentimes use this to demonstrate different things. So let's just say, for example, that I might want to use this design here, this second one in the list here. And I might want to make some changes to it. And it is a Jeff design. Then I would probably, when I save this design, I would change the name of it from the AD002. I may change it to AD002 with my initials after it. All right. Or maybe I would put my initials at the beginning of it just to show that I had done some kind of an alteration to this original file. So be creative is basically what I'm saying here about the way that you name your files to designate them as being different from what you originally purchased, if it was a stitch file, or if it was going to be a little bit different from, you know, different versions that you have actually digitized yourself. So anyway, I just wanted to try to cover that with you just to help clarify, you know, that you are going to be exporting stitch files, and you can change the name of those stitch files at the same time that you are actually exporting them into the location that you want to have them stored. So right now it's on my computer, but if I decided I wanted number 3 Sunset to actually be saved on my, let's see, where would I go? If I wanted to save it on my USB stick, I almost lost my train of thought there, excuse me. I would just select my USB stick over here under my little toolbar on the left side of my screen, and I would find my EMB folder, and then I would find the folder that I wanted to save my Sunset into, and that's how you would do that there. So you can save it on your computer, export it onto your computer, save it onto your USB if you so wanted to, or export it onto your USB if you wanted to. Lots of different options, and I hope that this video helped to clarify some of the questions you might have. Okay, that's it for now. Bye-bye.